Smashburgers are all the rage nowadays, and rightfully so. They are the best type of hamburger because of that crust, and we know that color equals flavor. So today, we're gonna make 4 different variations, with each one getting weirder. Now, our first burger will be our control. It's a classic American smash burger, nothing special at all. It all starts with our cheese. Here we have pepper jack, which is the best cheese. After we have that sliced, we're going to want something to cut through the grease of the burger, so tomatoes it is. As much as you might hate them, you heathen, they do a perfect job, but we need to make them taste even better, so we're going to season them with salt and pepper. Now, we're going to use lettuce purely for texture. We're going to want a slight crunch to offset everything else, but this is where it gets real. Onions are a mandatory element, as we're making an Oklahoma smash burger, and I already had some cut up. But now we have our buns. These are nothing special, but we're going to slather them in mayo, which will crisp beautifully when we fry them. Before we do that though, we're gonna add a pickle into the mix. I like pickles, this is my burger, so don't complain. Now that we have all of our ingredients, it's time to fry. Firstly, we're gonna get ourselves a cast iron pan. Sure, you can use stainless steel or something else, but in my experience, cast iron is the best way to go. After we have it warmed up, we're gonna add our buns to begin browning. Once those are nice and toasty, we're gonna set them aside. Now, we're going to oil up our pan, then place our ball of hamburger. Now, this is the important part. I'm using some aluminum foil and a heavy-duty meat pounder, but you can use a pot. This will help us develop a nice crust. After we have it nice and thin, we're going to layer on our onions. Now, my onions are too thick, so when you do this, make them nice and skinny. After we have those on, we're going to season them with salt and pepper. A few minutes later, we're going to check if our meat has a crust. And seeing that it does, we're gonna flip it. The crust is solid, but we have to cover its beauty with cheese. Now, this is where I made another critical error. The burger is gonna cook much too fast for the cheese to melt all the way, so in hindsight, I should have used a bowl or something to trap all that heat. When it's kinda melted, we're gonna get our buns and transfer the meat over. Now, we'll add our toppings, then crown our king. Look at that view. It's gorgeous. Let's taste it. Yeah, it's a really good burger. The tomatoes and pickles add a lovely contrast. The shreddis is crunchy, and the meat is juicy and delicious. Could it be improved? Absolutely. So that's why I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10. Now, our second burger starts with some pineapple. We're gonna add a few pieces to a blender, along with a half tablespoon of dark brown sugar, a dash of soy sauce, and a squeeze of the Spokken's teriyaki Japanese sauce. With everything swimming together, we'll blend everything until it's a nice sauce. Once that's done, we'll add it to a small bowl along with our beef. We got a decent crust. But in my haste, I forgot to add the cheese when I flipped the patty. We'll add that real quick. We'll add our shreddis, and voila, we have ourselves a teriyaki smash burger. It's definitely not as pretty as the previous one, but it's still good. Now, let's taste. The flavor is quite odd. It has a mere hint of teriyaki flavor, and none of the acidity of the pineapple shines through. It's too subtle for my liking, but it's still good. So I'm gonna give it a 6.5 out of 10. In a perfect world, I would have added some steak along with the patty as I've seen in other burgers, but I didn't have it, so we're gonna have to deal with it. We'll start with an onion, and with our previous knowledge, we'll slice it nice and thin. Once we have those, we're gonna get our pepper and give it the same treatment. If we take a slice, we can see that it is really thin. Now, on our toasted buns, we'll add our patty. As you can see, the cheese is much more melted, thanks to a bowl I used after flipping. We'll add our toppings, then crown our king. As you can see, the peppers are cooked perfectly along with the onions. Now, let's give it a taste. I really like this burger. Sure, it nearly has the same ingredients as our control, but the peppers are bringing something unique to the table. Unfortunately, I can't give this higher than an 8 out of 10, since there isn't enough that screams Philly cheesesteak. The vegetables might have to blame for that as well. The next one is the oddest. To start, instead of mayo, we'll fry our buns in butter. Once those are nice and toasty, we'll set them aside. There are two magic ingredients to this burger. The first, obviously, is peanut butter. I'm personally a big fan of the honey variant, so that's what I have. We'll give our bottom bun a good helping of the spread. Our next ingredient is some sort of jelly. I have some orange marmalade, so that's what I will use. We'll layer some onto the top bun. Next, we're gonna place our patty with cheese and onions onto the peanut butter side. Then, we'll crown our king, and I'm kinda scared to put this in my mouth. Regardless, I'm already here, so let's taste it. It's weird, and I like it. The peanut butter and marmalade contrast really well with the beefy patty. It adds a nice sweetness that complements the overall experience. Unfortunately, it didn't last long, and the beef overwhelms the accompanying ingredients, but it's surprisingly delicious. I'll give it an 8 out of 10. Anyways, if you've stuck around this long, you might consider pressing that subscribe button. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.